Welcome to your new moon update for April 2021. We have a new moon in Pisces in Vedic Astrology, the sidereal zodiac, and this is all about transitions, endings, and new beginnings. Time to call in what you're giving birth to and to dissolve what you're ready to let go of. Hi, I'm Prema Gurreri, Vedic astrologer, consciousness coach, and welcome to Chart Your Path. Click the subscribe button, hit that bell notification if you're new to the channel, and I really appreciate you doing that and helping to get the word out. Feel free to share this as well. This new moon is happening at the end of the zodiac, Pisces, this place that is water in the form of steam. And yes, I am talking about Vedic astrology, the sidereal zodiac. And before we go into fire, before we go into Aries and we give birth and all that energy, like in the Northern Hemisphere spring, this is an amazing spiritual transformative place. It's a place where we're in tune with our unity. We're in tune with the fact that we are spiritual beings and we are not of this world. We're living in this world. If we tune into it in that way, we can also be in the place of being checked out. And that is not what I want for you. I want you to be checking in because there's some potent energy up here for transformation. And the kind of transformation, this is where we have the energy of the great womb of the Divine Mother, and which is endings and new beginnings. When we're about to give birth, those of you who have given birth, or you do know what the birth cycle is, it's the ending of a cycle. It's the ending of that gestation period, and it's the beginning of a new cycle. We go through this time and time again in different ways, whether this is in your career, your work in the world, in relationships, our health and well-being, perceptions, these endings, new beginnings, and it's a good place to be familiar with because even the ending of so-called this life is the beginning of, being more in that eternal form. So this new moon marks the growing season at a whole other level because as we step into Aries next with this new moon, it starts a new cycle, a new 30-day cycle, not one based by the month. It is a rich time for calling in. What are you calling in that you want to manifest, that you want to birth? This placement gives us the grace for wealth, for manifestation, for prosperity, to create with grace. And that's a beautiful thing to have, that grace, that wind in your sails. So what are you calling in? It's a question I want you to sit with. What are you calling in that you're really ready to grow as we come into this cycle of Aries? And the sun is transitioning into Aries as well very soon, right after this new moon does. Now, with that question, what are you dissolving? There's things that are melting and dissolving away in this placement. What are you noticing that's dissolving away in your life? Is depending on where this is hitting you. Is this relationally? Is this some aspect of your work? Is this a perception? What's dissolving? And that's creating more space for what you're calling in and what you're going to birth. Sometimes we need to dissolve something away in order to be able to birth what is next. But you have the grace with you. Now, the primary motivation of this lunar mansion of Revati, where this new moon is happening, is spiritual liberation, spiritual growth. And our intuitive gifts are really tuned up, really heightened during this time. So I want to invite you, and so is your empathy, and especially if you're an empath. And most of my clients are, so you may very well be an empath. What I want to remind you about that is give yourself some protection during this time of this new moon, a couple days before and a couple days after. It's on the 11th, so a couple days before and after, because you're going to be very sensitized. And because of where this new moon is happening, it is in a place of, we called it Gandanta. If you go back and you watch my video for April, the transits for April, I talk about this because there's a lot of planets moving from Pisces into Aries. It's not just the new moon happening. And there's this very liminal place in between that is very potent and rich for spiritual transformation, but it's not great for clarity. And you can also be really sensitive during that time. You can feel kind of emotionally stormy, especially with this new moon. So I want you to watch out for that and give yourself the safe environments that you need so that you can relax and open up to the goodness that this brings. Now, this is a place where barriers are being broken down. I want to talk about the wealth, the prosperity that is magnified, that is available, spiritual and material. But spiritual wealth. Let me talk about what spiritual wealth is. And in fact, you may want to grab my book, Your Sacred Wealth Code, Unlock Your Soul Blueprint for Purpose and Prosperity. I think it's right here behind me. And also there is a link to go ahead and grab that book in the description below. And there's also, if you want a free first chapter, you can grab that as well. I speak a lot about spiritual wealth and material wealth and what spiritual wealth, what sacred wealth really is. And when we know that, we are rich beyond this world. We are rich beyond belief. We know that we have whatever we need when we need it. We know what our gifts are, how to use them, the value of our gifts, the value of that adds to the value of who we are. And if you can see that for yourself, you can see that for others, because there's a whole energy with this new moon in as far as us as a collective. We're ending a very intense cycle we have been in, and we're moving into another one. And there is and especially where Jupiter just moved to, and again I talk about this in the April update, a very humanitarian placement where we have an opportunity to come together as a collective and not be so polarized. This new moon is very helpful with that as well. And you know, there's the collective gain and personal gain. And when we're truly giving from our gifts, when we're truly on purpose, we are contributing to the collective gain, the good of others, as well as to our personal gain. And that comes full circle back to us. And it's a beautiful circle. Now, the deity that goes along with this nakshatra Revati is Bhushan, and it's the nurturer and looks over the flocks and the herds, because in looking over those animals in symbolism, they feed back, they give life, they give sustenance back on many levels. Well, this lunar mansion has the ability to feed us on many levels, and especially when we pay attention to nurturing what's good for everyone. Now, what's truly good for you, like really pure and clean is really good for you, actually is good for everyone. And when you are focused on your purpose and on your gifts, and you truly are in a place of giving an equal energy exchange, what is good for you is good for everyone else. So I want to invite you to really pay attention to what needs nurturing. Now, if I was to look at your chart, I would tell you the area of life this is happening in. And so if it's relationships for you, like if you nurture your relationships, if you nurture certain environments, if you were to nurture even your business or your career, those, by nurturing it, it gives back, and it gives back manyfold. So you really want to look at where can you take better care? Where are you being called to nurture in order to receive that wealth and that prosperity back? And this is going to take you sitting in meditation, you being squeaky clean with yourself. I teach processes around this in my Solutionary Blueprint and my Sacred Wealth Circle. And grabbing my book, I have a lot of processes in my book as well that you can walk through, and even some online practices for free you get with the book, so you can really get deeper into what sacred wealth is even for you. Okay, last thing here, your intuitive gifts are going to be really turned up on high, so is your creative intelligence. In fact, this is where Einstein had his exalted Venus. He always considered himself an artist more than he was a scientist. And so you're going to have this, you're just going to be sensitive, your intuitive gifts are up, you're on the veil is very thin, and as you're letting things slip away, and as you are getting more clear about what you're calling in, and what you're like, again, that goddess energy, that energy of the divine feminine, what you're birthing next, let that clarity, sink in. Now, you may not get that clarity right on the day of the new moon, But what you're doing is you're calling it in and you're creating an opening. If you're not clear, that's fine. You will become clear in the next few days. You just want to stay in that place of being very open, creative, and listening to your intuition, because your intuitive gifts are going to speak very loud to you. Remember, you feel intuition in your gut, in your body, and if you're thinking a lot, isn't it? You're in your mind and you're overthinking. All right, I'd love to hear what you're calling in. Feel free to leave that in the comments below. Love to hear that for you. And so much love to you. Go ahead and share this so it brings this great information to other people. You're not going to get this somewhere else. And I appreciate you subscribing. So much love to you.